I know we've picked up some new fans who don't particularly like our theme music, but that's okay. We still like you here on Feature Please. A vile visit to Bejor. My name is Joseph.
I'm just over here living entire lifespans and then casually discarding them. I'm your co-host, Peter.
I'm not kidding about that, by the way. Like we had some people try us out, and they're like, "What is with this recorder noise? Is someone's child practicing in the background?"
It's our heinous recorder. It's our would-be production company.
It's a filter. It's a built-in filter. You have to be willing to endure that if you're gonna listen to our show.
Think we actually have the better opening between that and the real thing.
Did you listen to the opening, the change they made to the opening music for season 4 yet?
I watched the full intro. I was more paying attention to what was happening on the screen and less listening to the music.
Right, yeah, because there's much busier, so many more ships. But yeah, there's just like this synth backbeat that they added to the theme music that was totally unnecessary.
That's what they do in Bermanera. I don't know. Did you like the TNG intro rework?
I did. I think that the Enterprise rework was also not a bad idea.
That's why I can't trust your opinion, because it was fucking terrible. They took a terrible song and they made it even worse.
Yeah, well, they made the DS9 theme worse, so I think we're at least agreed on that. What I think are also agreed on is that we're about to review quite the episode of Star Trek. I don't think it's going to shock you to say that this is like the favorite of a lot of people who worked on it as a piece of drama.
Skip over all my hard work I've been doing in Voyager Across the Unknown to save every single crew member, and we're just going to go right into Deep Space Nine, huh? That game's a problem for me. I've really had to put both hands on the steering wheel and watch how much time I've been willing to put into it and how late I've been willing to stay up playing it. So maybe it is for the best we don't bring it up here.
I mean, we'll continue to update people on our progress, but I think this is one where we don't want to burden our discussion with too much nonsense. What did we watch this week?
The Visitor, season 4, episode, we're saying 3, right?
Correct.
Okay, because Way of the Warrior part 1 and 2, even though it was meant as a continuous viewing experience at the time of broadcast, The Visitor, season 4, episode 3, first aired October 9th, 1995, written by Michael Taylor, directed by our old friend David Livingston. In-universe dates all over the place. You got 23, 73, 74, 89, 22, and then somewhere in the 25th century.
Yeah, 24, 22, and then mid-25th century at the end. So this is the consensus favorite episode of Avery Brooks, Sherrock Lofton, although they go back and forth on this, and Far Beyond the Stars, which is in season 6. David Livingston, this is his favorite that he ever did. And Ira Stephen Bear, everyone thinks that this is probably their best dramatic output that they ever did. I would disagree in terms of it being my favorite, but hard to say that it is not a fantastic piece of dramatic work that is a timeless and still very Star Trek way of telling a father-son story. You know, it's not much to joke about here. You know,
no.
We're going to be a little light on the laughs this time around, aside from maybe how the old age makeup looks on Bashir and Jadzia. Lots of liver spots, apparently. That's how we're going to do that.
No special effects nominations for this one.
No. But it really pays off the subplot that you and I have paid so much attention to on this journey through the show, which is the strength of the Jake and Ben Sisko relationship and how pivotal it is to Sisko as a character and to the story as a whole. That this very almost normal father-son, I'm raising you in the absence of your deceased mother story is taking place.
For now. I mean, he could be raising her in the presence of a woman from a different reality.
That's true, which will come up later this season. But it tells it in a it does the sort of in media res thing where we start the story at the end and then go back to the beginning, and One of the things they decided to do after they couldn't do very good old age makeup on Sherlock Lofton is they hired Tony Todd to play the adult / elder version of Jake.
This was a special episode for me because my wife came downstairs and we watched it together. And it's always hard for me. It has been hard for me to get her in the room for Star Trek. I told her, rumor has it this is a fan favorite. This is one of the better ones. And I think this was a great episode for someone to be in the room who is not a big Trek fan, especially as we creep deeper into the Dominion War story arc and the, as we frequently point out, sheer volume of background information you need to really process, let alone enjoy these episodes. So I don't want to call this necessarily a ship in the bottle episode, but this is definitely a standalone product. Is this something they're going to touch on down the road?
Not necessarily explicitly in the sense that there's a ton of continuity that's carried forward, because ultimately Sisko is the only one that seems to understand what happened, and what he experiences is relatively limited anyway. So, a lot of the action that takes place in this episode essentially is lost to anyone to carry forward. I would agree with you. This is actually one of the better episodes for someone just to randomly watch with you. You don't need to know much about the characters to get what's going on.
What an odd man out for Deep Space Nine to see something this self-contained, because this is Voyager through and through in terms of a single serving story that does not impact the meta plot in any way. And normally with Voyager, it would be awful. With, rare cases, there being some really great stuff. But we're going to call this a time travel episode, right?
I think so. I think it's fair to say.
Gosh, because he's not really traveling. He's coming out.
He's being dragged through time, is the way that Jake ultimately describes it.
Yeah. We've got such a history with time travel episodes, again, courtesy of Voyager, which it felt like every 4 episodes we were getting some sort of time travel, and they certainly got very goofy with what the rules were going to be there. And then we had the
little time cops showing up. Like, it was a whole thing for them. This makes a time travel plot feel better, because you even though it's only a 45-minute television program, you feel the length of time pass. The passage of time is communicated, and not just the old man makeup, but like that people are living their lives. A lot happens, right?
The pacing is very slow and deliberate, and very well deserved in this case. And these Deep Space Nine episodes have been packing so much content in, and I love it. Way of the Warrior at an hour and a half, I think.
Yeah.
Tons and tons of stuff. And even, we've had a couple just regular episodes. It's like, how did they fit this many plot points, this much great dialogue, whatever? And this being its own self-contained thing, being an emotional punch story, being a story about family and this poor guy's destroyed life, absolutely deserved this slower pacing to let everything soak in and give you as much punch as possible. And like you said, like them getting Tony Todd to do this, my wife's watching and she's like, is that the Candy Man? And I'm like, it absolutely sure is.
Yeah, it's getting Tony Todd. He plays Kern too, as we recently revisited, and we will see him again actually as Kern on Deep Space Nine. So he's obviously been involved in the Trek universe, so he's like somebody who's kind of like available to them, right? Like somebody who take their calls. And the way his acting method kind of, you have to find the right role for him, right? Like, it's why like the Candyman works. It's why Kern works, because he has like this presence. He's very tall. He can kind of has this deep voice that he can like turn into something that's either aggressive or sinister in a way that makes those kinds of roles he typically was cast in work for his whole career until he passed away.
Yeah.
But for this, it's, him playing adult Jake. He's playing a very vulnerable, person. He's playing somebody who's very damaged, who who seems like he's always crouching, right? Because Tony Todd is fucking huge, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the way he's even physically acting, and that he's trying to make himself small, even when he's like middle aged, full of strength in life, not necessarily old version of him. Just is part of the performance that they were able to get out of him to demonstrate like he's not somebody who is ever able to really stand tall and move on from the death of his father, because his father wasn't dead and he couldn't live with that. And what torture that ended up being for him.
Tony Todd's a very interesting pick too, because you've got all of Hollywood, within scope to grab here, and to grab a guy where a role like this is so far out of his wheelhouse, and give them the opportunity, and to absolutely nail it. He did a great job through this thing, and what a nice thing to see on Tony Todd's resume. I'm surprised that Avery's didn't direct this. This really seems like something that the producers would have fed him a directorial opportunity on.
I'm not surprised, because I feel like, the thing about directing yourself, and you can see this in a lot of the episodes that he ultimately does direct, and like how little of it he is in. This happened a lot with Jonathan Frakes when he would do TNG episodes, and then even when he did First Contact, like he's like a tertiary character in that movie because he's too busy having to be the director, right?
Yeah, but Sisko's in this for so little.
I guess you do have a point there, and looking through a lot of the episodes that he did direct, like Tribunal, he's not in it very much. The Abandoned, he's not in it very much. Fascination, he's not in it very much. Improbable Cause, he's not in it basically at all. And then going through some of the stuff that is to come, Rejoined, Body Parts, Ties of Blood and Water, the only one where he's actually a big character in something that he directs is Far Beyond the Stars. And that one is kind of maybe paying off exactly what you're saying, which is, well, maybe he does really have to do both on this. But I still think maybe not being in the director's chair let him concentrate on his performance sufficiently that it was as good as it was.
What else has Michael Taylor done? The Fight. I was thinking about Think Tank last night, as a matter of fact, as I play through Cross the Unknown and what they're going to do with that. And I think Think Tank absolutely broke that show for me.
Really?
Again, the fact that Think Tank could have gotten them home had they had the ability to catch up to Voyager after Voyager had been cast forward and all these other huge jumps, how they cured the phage. Because I was thinking about the Vidian plot. Man, all right, I'm getting off.
Yeah.
If you don't get the Vidian medical device, just stop playing the game. You want to talk about OP MVP. He's got a ton of stuff in here. Dragon's Teeth, everybody's favorite brand new major arc villains, the Vaudois. Friendship. He's got talking about intimate stories between close friends and family.
Oh, man.
I'm not seeing a ton of touchy emotional. Sobriety Chaotica, yeah. So could they have fucked this episode up? I don't think they could have, because it's not the fanciest plot. It's not asking us to make really ridiculous concessions as an audience or suspensions of disbelief. Really, you could have had any technobabble excuse for what was happening. And I think that Sirach Lofton and Avery Brooks has done such a great job up to this point building this relationship out where they've let them, which I think is just the right amount for Deep Space Nine. That unless they had cast someone who was just a complete clown as old Jake, that this thing was going to be amazing no matter how you cut it.
You're right. You kind of did just trust your two actors who already built all of this chemistry together as father and son to just pay it off. And then you brought in a guy who understood the assignment to finish it the rest of the way. Probably not possible to fuck it up, especially like you said, with David Livingston in charge. he's just a steady hand, right? He
Mhm.
knows what needs to be delivered here, and he's going to deliver on it. We do open on a dark and stormy night in Louisiana, in the bayou somewhere, in a tidy little home with elderly Tony Todd, who we'll very quickly find out is Jake Sisko. And a woman named Melanie comes to visit, which is, the plot device here so that Jake Sisko can tell a story to somebody. And
Real
we, the
Brazzers
audience, can
set up here, all right?
Oh, God. Fun fact. So the actress that played Melanie here, named Rachel Robinson, they really wanted to bring her on for other things. They had her try out for some roles in later seasons, and she just was second place on everything. So they really liked her in this episode, and they kept trying to use her again, and then just never did. She resembles the lady that played the Phlox's girlfriend on Enterprise that passed away to me, Crewman Cutler. Yeah. So
Girl next door.
Her name is Rachel Robinson. She happens to be Andrew Robinson's daughter. Nepotism, ladies and gentlemen. But lacks dad's crazy eye. So
if there was any part of this that I felt was weak or out of place, it just if I'm going to punch any hole in this thing, a pretty girl showing up at your door in a absolutely terrible storm, cut and beat up, and just being welcomed in, and I don't know, man.
It's the 24th century. This is okay now. This isn't weird anymore.
This felt very, I don't want to say inappropriate, but distracting.
It's a classic premise of I just wanted to learn so much about you, this hidden away artist that never made more. I was, and I journeyed to the mountaintop to reach you. I get it. I get where they're going for.
If I wasn't trying to accommodate Andrew Robinson's daughter, I suppose I personally would have cast a young man in there that, Jake could have seen some of himself in. Although, by the end, he's effectively unmaking that entire timeline, so...
Yes, he is. It's all kind of
we'll get into that, because that's the greater impact in all of this, but...
So he starts to tell a story as to why he stopped writing. And he says it starts when his father died. That's when we cut the credits and we come back to the story. And, a lot of the story is just basically Tony Todd / Jake doing the narration throughout. And apparently the plot happens because he's got writer's block. And for some reason, his father thinks what a great way to cure the writer's block is to go through the danger hole to the danger land. So we can do, we can watch the wormhole invert, which is apparently something that only does every 50 years, which why would they know that? Because it just came about. None of this makes sense. This feels like TNG plot.
It is. Or Voyager plot. And again, you don't really need to look too deeply at it. I will once again call out that dragging the warship that we have specifically called out for not having good sensors. When you've got these science build-out runabouts laying around, just perfect for observing space phenomena with all the sensors that you did not put in your hot rod gunship. And maybe, Sisko will keep that in mind down the road when he thinks about how the warp core tried to Tesla coil his ass.
Listen, that warp coil has already gotten one body. This was this attempt at number 2. It's hungry.
We talked about how the Enterprise D was sentient and had a crush on Geordi, and that's why all those holodeck characters would keep leaning towards him. Do you think that the Defiant is Ben Sisko's Frankenstein's monster? It resents being dragged into this world in existence as pain, and it is trying to kill its father.
I think it's actually more like a Warhammer 40K machine spirit thing. The Enterprise is a creation of science, right?
Mm-hmm.
It has families on board. It's influenced by the reason it was built and its purpose for being, which is why it's more collaborative and maybe emotional and their sentimentality, and that's what we have suspected as it relates to why do all of these holodeck programs also always seem to like Geordi a lot. Why does the computer seem to be very responsive towards him? In the same way, this is built for war. It's aggressive. It's angry. it's only built to shoot things, and so everything it does reflects aggression. I think that
Listen,
you could easily make that interpretation.
all I know is at this point, that warp core has tasted, I would say, sentient blood, but we've already established that changelings don't have blood. But this thing has killed once. It wants to kill again.
Yes.
I don't know what happened to those other crew members. They might have been electric Tesla lashed into death too. It never circles back around if these people are okay. And I'm going to have my eye on this warp core and see how many other people it kills by the end of the run of this.
It's
if not the entire ship. I think that this lithium chamber is
it's thirsty
maleficent. Yeah, it wants to kill.
So there's a problem. Jake runs down to help his father fix the problem. He fixes the problem at the last second, and then he gets Tesla coiled, and Jake kind of gets blown back by the electric pulse and watches as his father basically looks like disintegrates. And that is the assumption that everyone operates from for the first part of the story, is that he is dead. And we see that there's a big memorial service on the station. Everyone shows up. Everyone is genuinely respectful and mournful of his passing. I think some of the best small beats in the story are the way Cork acts.
100%.
Like that he's really actually like hurt over the fact that Sisko is dead, and the way he like I said before, like the entire crew turns into a parental figure for Jake in the first third, including Quark, acting out of his character to try and take care of him.
Mm-hmm.
Dax, of like how she's basically becomes the surrogate parent from that point forward, which makes perfect sense because she's known Jake for 2 lifetimes, known Jake since she was born. She's been a parent in her lifetimes, both father and mother. There's probably no one better positioned to be that person. And you don't even see a ton of it. You just get one shot of him like crying in her lap and her just being like, yes, I'm so sorry this happened to you and I'm going to take care of you. Like I will be your parental figure from this point forward, even though you're 18. Like it's still like a raw thing to happen when you're this young.
Mm-hmm.
Kira, like coming on, like just filled with emotion of like trying to get him to leave, and the way Sherrick Lofton is able to play off like I can't. If I leave this place, this is the last. Then he's gone. Like while I'm here, he's still alive to me.
A lot of the good world building, I think, that Michael Taylor does here is part of it is Sisko's dead and the impact on Jake, and part of it is a nice reminder that like Deep Space Nine as a successful space station that had become what it was sits squarely on the shoulders of Ben Sisko. That he is ultimately responsible for where everybody is in their story and the pain that his death brings and the impossibility of keeping what he had created together as this Klingon Dominion threat like looms. And
how it collapses in his absence, like how quickly things fall apart if he specifically is gone.
The decision to have Bajor ally with Cardassia was very interesting. Like it accomplishes telling the story as to why the Federation ultimately has to withdraw from Deep Space Nine. But you're like, hold on, the Cardassians have just freshly gotten their asses kicked by the Klingons, and now Bajor is going to be like, we're going to ally with our former fascist oppressors against this huge organization that can also kick our at like what? Straight.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not quite understanding.
I would question this and condemn this stupidity harder if I didn't know what the mental deficiency of the provisional government truly was.
This is the place where Skeletor nearly took over with like 15 guys.
Rightfully so.
There's maybe a dearth of things for us to talk about as it relates to a lot of these scenes because they're just about kind of being in the emotion that the characters are putting forward and the nuances that they get to display as actors. Aaron Eisenberg is somebody that is a big standout in this episode because he plays different versions of Nog as time goes on that feel very different. That should demonstrate like his change and maturity. It is a reminder, of course, that he is a full-grown adult male at this time. With he has this disease that keeps him physically small. He is not actually young, and it's the way you get that is you get Nog kind of in the present day when he's getting ready to go to Starfleet. And then like later on when he shows up and he's a commander and he's just very professional, very like self-assured, like he just immediately shifts into I'm now Nog, except I've been a Starfleet officer for 20 years and I'm rising in the ranks. I'm going to be a captain someday. And I'm going to act like I'm Riker, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he just does. And you get a lot of that through all of the different characters. Whether it's Kira making an emotional connection with Jake, understanding why he has to remain on the station, or Dax taking care of him, or like the regard that they still have for wanting to help him even decades later, when they're all older and trying to help him realize that find his father. I do like that initially he has the experience in the quarters. It's brushed off because there's no kind of evidence that it occurred and kind of happened under circumstances where you might believe that it was just a dream. But then like, oh no, we're going to make sure the plot knows that he's actually still out there, right?
Uh-huh.
Like going to get him, touch him, bring him to sickbay. Everyone sees him, like, okay, Starfleet knows, everyone knows, right? And it makes him unable to let go makes so much sense.
And this isn't anything new to them. Keep in mind, we just had Miles O'Brien getting time bopped around when the Romulans were going to try and blow up Deep Space Nine to collapse the wormhole.
Yeah.
And
the wormhole does this. Yeah.
I like that the wormhole does do this. And
yeah,
if again, I'm going to sit here and poke holes in this. Maybe at some point, Jake Sisto should have like went in the wormhole with a tear or an orb and been like, hey, listen, the emissary who you employed, that's my dad, that arguably you just took away. Can you like time as a flat circle and catch him back in, I don't know, the emissary episode 1 and warn him that, hey, this is coming down the pipe. Maybe you should stay the fuck out of the way.
And they could have like done that scene, and then they could have just spoken a lot of metaphor that suggest to tell Jake without him understanding that they're telling him like, actually, you're the reason why this is happening. And if you die when he is there, he will snap back. He just didn't get it,
It's a good setup again because this is stuff that's already happened.
Yeah,
these are things this crew has dealt with, and this is going to be a time where they're not able to fix it, and it's going to be a loss. When you do stuff like this, where it all gets, it's not, it was all a dream, but it all gets whooshed away at the end. It's fun to really explore the what if here. And seeing them take a big fat L is interesting. This is, arguably the bad ending here. It also, makes you sit there and think about, like, this is Starfleet. And this shit's out there happening. You don't always have Lieutenant Commander Data and Geordi LaForge and the best and brightest of the entirety of Starfleet at your disposal to fix these things. So, like, feels very lower decks, right? Wow, here's a crazy, terrible, maybe worse than death, maybe not, I don't know, that officers are potentially exposed to.
The knowledge that he is actually somehow time displaced, and still able to manifest himself and could potentially be recovered is the most interesting plot point out of all of it. Because even when he's talking, to in the past as Tony Todd to Melanie, he's like, most people, they just get to heal in the absence of their loved one being deceased. They move on. That is what happens. But I can't, because I know he's not dead. Like, assured fact, scientific fact, he's around and he can potentially be saved. And that revelation is what ruins his life.
He can potentially be saved. I can have agency, and there is no real way that I can sit here and justify to myself, like, that I should not become a a wormhole physicist, temporal expert, and I'm going to have to effectively jettison my life and my plans and commit to a deep level of scholastic expertise because I have 20 years or something.
So the sequence of events is they find out he can be reclaimed, but then they have to leave Deep Space Nine because they give it over to the Klingons. Apparently, in this universe, the Dominion never attack, so maybe it isn't the bad ending.
Ooh,
Yeah,
ooh, a lot of blood on this guy's hands.
like apparently, if you let the Klingons take over the wormhole, the Dominion thinks twice, and there's never a giant intergalactic war. Who would have thought?
That knife hand cut very effective in stopping Founder
chicanery. Yeah. And so he has to go back to Earth, and this is his second chance to try and move on. It's like, oh, it's like linked to the wormhole, it's linked to Deep Space Nine. So if he reappears, it's going to be there. The Klingons never say anything. Maybe hard to know what to do next, right? They don't have enough information, and so it kind of allows him to drift into a life. And so he finally does go to school. He starts to write, and he meets a lady named Karina, a Bajoran woman, and gets married and is building a life. And then the next worst thing happens. They're hanging out at home and he shows back up. And now it's clearly connected to Jake personally. When he visits this time, I just cannot say enough about Avery Brooks as an actor. I can feel in his bones how much he just is like, I'm okay. Don't worry about me. I'm just happy I get to check in on you and make sure your life is going okay. I don't want you to worry about me. I'm your father. Oh, you're married? Like, oh, I'm going to make jokes about how I still want grandkids even though I'm temporally displaced. Like, I'm unbothered, right? Like, and the way you can feel like his love for his son in that is so other-centered. Like, he's not, hey, try to help me. Like, no, don't worry about it. I don't fucking care. You're the only thing I care about.
It's a self-sacrifice that all parents feel, and you don't really understand what that feels like in your bones until you have kids and you're like, I would throw my life away with zero hesitation if it's going to save your life. And just the selflessness that comes with or can come with parenthood. Yeah. That is there. And then all that stuff I just talked about, like, this is Starfleet. Ben Sisko fully understands that he is fucked forever. He should be dead. And what he's getting right now is crazy bonus rounds. He's dead. He should have been blasted into nothing. And he's getting this chance to see his son grow up. And that's the heartbreaking part in this, is that Sisko knows this is a lost cause. All he wants is the best for his son. He's not coming out and saying, like, Jake, give up. I'm fucked, and I'm watching you ruin your life now. I saw the trajectory you were on. I see the damage my presence is causing, and I'm having to watch a accelerated slideshow of your life falling apart because my career and the zany things that happen have now destroyed your life with this guilt and obligation to try and stop something that my best people couldn't.
Yeah, and I guess, like, the tragedy is he sees Jake a year after the accident. So not much time has passed. Then the next time he sees him, he's in his mid-30s. And the next time he sees him after that is after he's ruined his life to try and save him, right? There is no intermediary step where he's able even to, like, warn him. It's already after there's been negative consequences of the fact that he is not, entirely gone. That he starts to give him that desperate warning later on down the road. But like, the way he just communicates with Karina with the eyes of, like, and the way he immediately just kind of, like, melts down after, like, oh my God, you're still alive. I missed you so much. And that's what I'm saying. Like, Tony Todd delivers on being small and weak and damaged in a way that I don't think I've ever seen him as an actor be able to do. It's crazy. And it's like he immediately was able to sell me on the fact that this is Jake Sisko and he's a little boy right now in his father's arms, breaking down because he missed him. That's hard to fucking do, man. That's hard enough to do when you're working with that person. You've built that rapport and you've built that chemistry, right? Like Sherlock Lofton and Avery Brooks have. This is next level. It's like some guy that, I mean, you probably know him professionally, but like this is
Not
where we
some
gotta
guy.
go.
You have to go and hug the Candyman.
Yeah, the
Like it's
Candyman
your
has
son.
to be weak and soft.
And you know, Avery Brooks have to love the Candyman as your as your poor son.
Top tier. I just like I don't know what else to say. Like you should watch it, but I don't think we have to tell anybody to, right? Like everyone is proud of this for a reason because like you said, they didn't create a complex story. They created a story where actors got to do their thing and they just trusted them to do it. And when you look back at like stuff like Duet and look forward at episodes like Far Beyond the Stars, where it's the same kind of pattern where it's like, we're just going to let the actors do what we paid them to do, that we trust them to do. And it turns out they're going to do it. They're going to make it work.
You can watch something like this too and be like, this is a really good episode, as the producers, like, let's try to worm this in everywhere else. And I think that's where stuff like 1159 comes from. But like, can we tell this Star Trek story that's not really using our main actors, and it's going to be fringy in a emotional way, or just like this dramatic way that Star Trek usually isn't? And this is a great a great example of it, knocking it out of the park. Inner Light's another one. I mean, obviously, it's the same thing, right? It's accelerated life. And then you get other stuff where it just does not click at all. I thought it was cool in the far future, which would have been 2389, right? That they bust out the All Good Things uniforms.
Yes, smart move, right? Got them around. So you made the damn things. You know, gotta get some use out of them.
I want to say this is the second time you and I have seen these, because they use those in Endgame, right?
Correct. They put it on Janeway and Kim and Muriel Paris.
I really like those uniforms in All Good Things, and seeing people move around them, like, they do not hold up well on screen.
No, they were definitely cheaply made.
Dax, Bashir, Nog pulling strings, hearing about Worf using his connections to let Defiant in. Everybody's commentary, just how far forward they've gone in the future. You know, Bashir, like, I haven't used a 2-dimensional display in decades. Like, how did we ever manage?
You know, again, you've already mentioned Jake goes on essentially a self-destructive academic obsession over trying to save his father for the next several decades. He throws away any chance of a life with his wife. He throws away his career and gets a PhD in temporal mechanics or whatever, so that because now he feels like this deep personal responsibility because he knows his father's alive and it's somehow connected to him, and that there has to be a way to fix this.
And the only person who really cares enough is going to be him. Like, can you blame him on any of this?
Absolutely not. This is your father, and you have felt his absence so deeply that the idea that you can get him back, that you can save him, I don't think that Jake is exactly the kind of man who would do that. He's raised to be a man who would do that.
He pulled O'Brien out of the Inferno Jeffrey tube of death.
Yeah.
Also, his dad told him to stay in his quarters. So, like, something to really beat yourself up. Like, had I listened to Dad, maybe this would not have happened. So many what ifs. And just the perfect setup for someone to be destroyed by grief and this overwhelming drive to try and fix a problem where they have agency and they have all of the time in the world to get ready for the next step.
The old person makeup's not great, but I do like old man Bashir and old woman Dax having this like very bickering old person friendship where they're like, you know, you're gonna tell me about your grandkids' science projects again, like type of thing. Like, don't get a lot of it, but it's perfect. You know, Nog is clearly like he's a captain. He's pulled his strings to get the Defiant out of like whatever mothball storage it was in, and they go to recreate the accident, and they are successful, perhaps unexpectedly, because Jake gets sucked into like the subspace waiting room where Ben Sisko has been,
where he's been quantum leaping.
And this is where you get the next like just very powerful scene between the two of them when Ben realizes, oh, fuck, you've ruined your life to try and save me. You need to stop. You need to go back. You need to live your life. You need to not think about this, and he's not listening to him. He's not and it makes sense because for Jake, decades and decades and decades have passed. He's burnt everything behind him to do this.
Mm-hmm.
He's called in every mark and every favor. There's only saving his father as far as he's concerned. And for Ben Sisko, very little time has passed, right? He gets these little quantum leaps in, and that's basically it. And so he's like, oh shit, I need to stop you. But it's like, I'm up against decades of inertia. I can't, even I cannot pierce that. You're obsessed with this.
It's a sharp punch to the stomach. And, it's a failed attempt that gets him far enough to see a light at the end of the tunnel, but not be able to wrap both hands around it and bring his dad home. The focus here is all on Jake. Yeah, you got Jadzia and the other, old crew there, but we're not really focused on them. And part of me kind of wonders, do they all know that this is not going to happen? Has everybody already tempered themselves and knows this is too far? It'd be great if it could, and we're willing to put the effort in out of loyalty to Ben Sisko and out of an obligation to his son. But yeah, man, I'll use PTO on this, but
they're not going to be broken up about it the same way that Jake is. They might love them both, but it's
they have to see too, man, this poor kid's fucking ruined his shit. Great on him for becoming a doctor or whatever, but
yeah. I guess there's worse things in life than become a PhD in a difficult temporal science, but it's clearly not what he was meant to do. And Ben tries to get him to let go, but as soon as he gets bamfed back into the Death Warp Core area, he's realized he's failed. And what's the first thing he does? Collapses into Dax's arms, crying like a little boy.
Mm-hmm.
It's just he can't get over it. And that's when, we cut back to, eventually Melanie, the young woman, she's sent off with, his incomplete stories and gets,
which I like.
Yeah.
Because at this point he effectively gives up and he follows his father's advice and starts writing again. And he's like, yeah, if you want these stories, go for it. You're not going to be able to do anything with it because guess what? This timeline's about to go away. I like when she's like, tell me the story. He's like, had you shown up any other day other than my suicide day, I would have told you no. But it seems so fitting to recount everything that's gotten me here. So let's hang out while this poison slowly crawls through my veins. He passes out in his chair after he sends her off and wakes up to his dad, very chill looking at him. And again, just the sadness and also pride in Sisko to be able to see his son for what he understands very clearly is going to be the last time. And he's catching his son at the end of his life and just savoring the moment. Very emotional. This is silly space pajama TV, but it's a father-son story that is very accessible.
The last scene did get tears out of me, which it didn't. I was like, I don't know if this is going to affect me emotionally the way that everyone talks about that last scene. And the way that Tony Todd is able to play, no, I figured it all out. I have to die in your presence. That's exactly what's about to happen. You're going to get another shot to go back to what happened. And by the way, don't get fucking Tesla coiled by the warp core on the Defiant.
Mm-hmm.
But just the line that he says, and I pulled it up because it's the one that brought tears to my eyes. It's for you and for the boy I was. He needs you more than you know. Don't you see? We're going to get a second chance. It's all what is I've spent my whole life understanding how much I needed you in my life. So I devoted myself to making sure that I don't have to suffer in your absence. So,
mm-hmm.
and
also tell Miles O'Brien to check for testicular cancer. That's going to be a real big deal from about 5 years.
He's not in the future scenes. I think it's a real bad time at some point in the 2390s or something. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, he dies in his arms. And Ben Sisko suddenly is right in front of the Tesla coil about to strike him. And he's like, oh shit. He jumps out of the way. And Jake's like, "Are you okay, Dad? Are you all right?" And he's just filled with this emotion, having had all these experiences, and just hugs his son and is almost in tears, right? Like, of, man, I don't. How can you feel more loved, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's only you who know,
Mm-hmm.
but it's true. It's very. It reminded me of the ending of Timeless, in a way,
Yeah.
of when Janeway goes down to Harry and goes like, and it's just filled with all this pride of like, I just got to see exactly what the depths you would go to save everyone on this ship, and I'm very proud of you, and I'm going to break the rules and let you talk to your former future self, so that you can understand exactly what a fucking G you really are. It's very similar to that, except obviously much more personal and emotional. Of, well, I guess my son loves me. I guess I know that.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good to know in life. But
Here's my question. As they move deeper into the series, Ben Sisko, who designed the Defiant, does he finally get around to putting a plexiglass shield around this fucking murderous, savage warp core? Like, two people have died.
and he's like tamers. It's got like a team of engineers around it.
Dampeners and whips and cattle prods. I mean, this thing needs, at the bare minimum, a railing around it or something. Like,
Like, it almost exploded, and
put some lead around this fucking thing. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on. Maybe this is going to be our workplace shooting meme. Like, how many bodies does the fucking Defiant Warp Core collect or attempt to collect?
I mean,
how
really
dangerous a place is the fucking engineering room?
Yeah,
Because every time we've been down here so far, it's not been a good time, right? Like,
it's essentially a Mortal Kombat level.
It is point, with an environmental fatality and everything. Yes,
what a fatality! Like, all right, Scorpion slams you against this thing. You get shocked, and then you have to watch your son hyper age and die before your eyes as they ruin their life trying to spare you from the fatality.
Oof, deep.
Yeah, is that what the male changeling that Odo body slammed into? Is that what he was going through as he was melting?
He was like hyper aging in some sort of torturous state. It's actually, they made a terrible mistake. They used that UAC Helltech stuff in this warp core. Mm-hmm. So it's like, it's not filled with dilithium, it's filled with human souls.
We make a big deal out of it.
It's like really, blow up Jem'Hadar.
We're making a big deal out of it, but really, like, in the Romulan Star Empire, like, that's part of starships, man. Like, Romulans die to this thing all the time. It's their cloaking technology enabling this terrible byproduct to the warp core.
Well, that's it. Obviously, like, we tend to go brief on episodes of two different types. One is when it's boring and awful and there's nothing to make fun of and we want to move on. We had several Enterprise and Voyager episodes that were like that, but it's often actually also difficult to talk about like deep dramatic episodes like this, because it's like, wow, that was really good. Those actors acted their asses off. Anyway, it's just something that you got to see for yourself, and fortunately most people have.
I want to talk about real quick though, like, what a detour story. You got off something incredibly powerful with Way of the Warrior, where every single thing that could have happened has happened. There's action, there's politics, everything else. And like, this is your catch your breath episode. And it's an emotional, like, usually the catch your breath episodes feel like kind of comical and silly. And I like the decision to like tell something touching instead.
Absolutely. And especially centered on this specific relationship too. Like, that was just such a strong choice.
Yes.
To lean into this as much as they possibly can.
To close that episode out, it was good. I don't know. I would not call this my all-time favorite.
Yeah, same. I'm kind of in the same position where I think you have to. I think for a certain species of Star Trek fan, it will be, and I respect that, but it is just not for me. It's very good. I'm sure it will rank among the best episodes of season 4, but I would not put it on my Mount Rushmore of Deep Space Nine. I really wouldn't. And that's no disrespect to this. It's just, it is a simple story ultimately. And I think I like to reward complexity to the overall narrative more.
Let me compare this more towards Timeless, because Timeless absolutely is on my top 5 of Voyager. and why. And I think it's because Timeless involved more people to a deeper extent. Timeless showcased Harry Kim for the first time ever as someone I didn't absolutely want to push off screen. And the scope, Timeless wasn't a touching story about family. It was about duty and obligation and high sci-fi, like high-end sci-fi. And it's similar in structure, but it's a family story. So great episode. I would not say it's my favorite episode.
What are we watching next week, though, Peter?
Yeah, speaking of some baggage, season 4, episode 4, Hippocratic Oath. Bashir tries to help members of the Jem'Hadar unit free themselves of their addiction to the drug the founders used to control them. Meanwhile, Worf tries to adjust aboard life on Deep Space Nine. Interesting names here.
Yeah.
Story, Nicholas Cora, Lisa Klink, Telepay, Lisa Klink. So what kind of sexy adventures are we about to get into? Because if there's a Lisa Klink...
Yeah. And then Renee's the one that's directing it. This is the only Lisa Klink Deep Space Nine episode.
Yeah.
So I regret to inform you, I don't think we're going to have too many sexy adventures with Lisa Klink here.
This is going to be some much needed world building. We've seen the Dominion. We've seen the Jem'Hadar as children, which ultimately we were left with a very unsympathetic impression of them. And that was the one where they get, what the hell was that episode called? Odo tries to connect and everybody's like, listen, man, you can't change a cheetah's spots. Like, just let this go. And he has to learn just how deeply the founders have fucked these guys. And I think this will probably be an episode that explores the exact details of that. And I know Ketracel White, have they called Ketracel White out by name yet?
It is definitely a big, actually Bashir O'Brien episode, believe it or not.
Love those.
Yeah. And yeah, the B plot is, oh yeah, we got this new character. We need to kind of sort his shit out. So I look forward to it as well, sir. Thank you so much for all of you who have joined us on our season 4 adventure. I appreciate, we got a lot of great comments. People very enthusiastic about, getting to do this journey with you specifically. We've had more people join the Discord. We've had, people like the new artwork that apparently you really like how your hairline was portrayed.
Yes, very kind of her.
Very, very kind of my wife.
This revisionist history.
We are enjoying this as much as you are, if not more so. So thanks so much, and we'll see you around.